Continuing to break down the right approach for Jason Light and the Bucs for next week's draft. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome into this episode of Locked On Bucs, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listener view every day. Don't forget you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can follow along on Twitter. I am James Yarcho at JYarcho_Bucs. He is David Schiele at Deacon_Schiele. We are your credentialed members of the media covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. David, of course, is on 10 Tampa Bay and at 10tampabay.com. And you can catch the show every Monday through Friday, along with the everydayers. And for that, we want to share our appreciation for your continued support of the show. One of the ways you can support the show is become a Locked On Bucs insider. You're going to get news, rumors, updates, general thoughts, one-on-one conversations with me via text message. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes to become an insider today. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All right. With the draft just over a week away, we are going to have David drop his first ever Locked On Bucs mock draft on this episode, and then we're all going to laugh at Evan Klosky's expense because David's mock is obviously going to be way better and more accurate than Evan's. But all of that is coming up a little bit later. David, I want to start here because this is something that I've talked about a lot on this show. It's something that I have had Evan talk about on this show. And it seems that by and large, most people that watch or cover the Bucs are in the same state of mind when it comes to the Bucs needs that need to be addressed next week. But with that said, I'm curious to hear what your power rankings are for the Bucs in terms of how you see their needs. And let's start at the top. What is your number one need that the Bucs absolutely have to address with a major impact player next week?
Yeah, you got to go get you an edge rusher. That's number one. You need a guy, and I said this last week, you need a guy who can be consistently getting after the quarterback. You don't have to just put him in on third downs. He can be there on every down because, it's a passing league. So you need a guy who can get double-digit sacks. You need that. And I know it's hard to tell who can exactly be that guy coming out of college. A lot of it, GMs have said it's kind of a guessing game when it comes to these edge rushers these days. But whoever it is, you better guess right. You need someone. So number one, get somebody who can get after the quarterback, please.
And we're going to talk about some of your other needs here in a minute, but I'm curious, with edge rusher being your number one, even with the addition of Haason Reddick, even with Yaya Diaby still there, you're hoping Braswell takes a step forward and develops a little bit more. But you still see that as kind of the biggest need, even though there seems to be a hole at linebacker and there's questions in the secondary. So is it strictly a matter of the fact that they just have to have a stable to be able to get after the quarterback? Or is this more of a, Haason may be one and done. We're not sure. We expect Yaya Diaby to be better than last year, but we're still not exactly sure what he is. Why is that the one that you honed in on as the number one need?
Because it's been a need for multiple years.
That's fair.
So I mean, let's keep it real, man. They really haven't had a guy in that role since really Shaq Barrett, the Super Bowl year. You can really just look at that. I mean, they had Shaq Barrett, but he wasn't the same, especially post injury. So yeah, they've needed it for a few years, and we know that it would just elevate this Todd Bowles defense. Todd Bowles likes to simulate pressure, have the guys pin their ears back, get after the quarterback. He wants to do that, especially if he sees a rookie lining up on the other side. But it fits a system. This is the best thing for a Todd Bowles defense. You need somebody who can get after the quarterback. It really makes a complicated Todd Bowles defense very simple. It's like, yeah, just go get the quarterback. I got it. And you let everybody else kind of do their thing. And Yeah, I just feel like it's not more complicated than that. I think it's really just like, hey, we've been saying it for a few years. So, I'm going to keep saying it until they get it. Until they get a guy who, like, hey, he had 10, 11, 12 sacks this year. Until that happens, and not the interior. Shout out to Vita Vea. Shout out to Kalijah Kancey. Okay. But until they have a guy on the edge that can truly get after the quarterback, I'm going to keep saying it.
Yeah, I mean, the cliche is you can never have too many edge rushers, but looking at edge rusher at number one, what do you feel are kind of their second and third biggest needs that absolutely have to be addressed with impact guys in this draft to kind of round out your top three biggest needs for the Bucs next week?
Yeah, just to echo something you said earlier, linebacker, you've got holes at linebacker. And then in the secondary, you've got some things there. I love Levante David. I said it last week. I love Levante David. It's awesome that he's coming back. He could fall off that cliff at any moment. He really could. And because you no longer have Devin White, or at least the Devin White that Bucs fans fell in love with, you need a guy who can really sideline to sideline. He can shadow running backs. He can get into pass lanes. You need a guy who can do that. And you need a guy who can be that for your defense for years to come. So you really gotta start working on that linebacker core, just because this could be the last of Levante David, and whoever you do take in the draft at linebacker needs to get that wisdom, needs to get that knowledge from Levante, so that they can use it for their second and third years, whatever. Just imagine the wealth of knowledge that Levante David has of football, right? To quote Michael Irvin, we're losing recipes, right? Imagine the recipes lost if you don't grab a guy who Levante could teach for at least a year, at least. So I think that's definitely number two. And then the reason I put secondary at number three is because there are guys who can fill in those roles. So it's not like they don't have anybody. But I mean, I joked last week, Jamel Dean's already on the injury report for 4 games. So he's going to miss some games. Zion McCollum has gotten better. He definitely has gotten better. But man, when Jamel's out, they look at Zion and they look at whoever is in the place of Jamel, and they're like, yeah, we're just going to target that guy. And we're going to just keep doing it. So that's definitely the top three for me. And they're depending on, certain arguments. You can make an argument that any of those could be number one. But if you're like, hey, you're in the hot seat, what is it? The Bucs have to address something right now. I'm going to go edge, then I'm going to go linebacker, then I'm going to go secondary.
And taking a look at the secondary, do you think the Bucs should gravitate more towards bringing in a corner or bringing in a safety? Because I know they have, these hybrid guys. Tyke Smith talks about wanting to go back to safety. Christian Izien can play the slot and play safety. They have some of these guys that can play both. But which one do you feel is kind of a little bit more pressing in terms of we need to make sure that we get a guy in this spot rather than another one of these that can kind of bounce all over the place?
I feel like safety, even though Izien really could just be the guy. Like Evan and I have had this discussion. It really could just be Izien, and they just say, hey, we just go play safety and just focus on that. We'll worry about the cornerback depth. It could be that, but you've seen the Bucs in the last couple of years kind of grasp at straws, trying to find a safety to work in tandem with Antoine Winfield Jr. So they brought back a couple of his former teammates, but we saw that didn't necessarily work. And yeah, I think that definitely is where I gravitate to, simply because the Bucs have seemed, I don't know if desperate is the right word, but they definitely have seemed to be more like really hungry to have a second safety to go along with Tweez, to have a really dynamic duo back there. But cornerback, definitely you've got to have some depth at corner. You have to. But when you look at this draft and you look at previous drafts, you can grab a corner at any time. Mm-hmm. You can grab a corner at any time that can work out. That's why I'm not going to be like, go get a corner first round. You have to do it. You don't have to. There's been a handful of corners drafted in the first round that did not work out. A handful of them. You can grab a corner 3rd, 4th, 5th round, and they turn out to be just wow. That guy. I think Richard Sherman was drafted in the 5th, 6th round.
I think he was 5th. I mean, shoot, even in Tampa, Zion was a day 3 pick.
Zion was a day 3 pick, right? And so I think of some of the better corners recently, they were not all 1st round picks. You don't have to always grab them in the 1st round. So that's safety to me. That's one of those positions where if you can go get one early and you know that guy can play, I'm thinking of like top of my head, Keanu Neal, like go get him, you know?
All right. Well, we're going to see how David addresses these needs as he kicks off his mock draft. That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, for me, youth sports, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, your investments, all of your spending all in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, even plan long-term goals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Thank you again for making Locked On Bucs your first listen review every single day. For your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Draft with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez. Now that the season is over, get the latest draft rankings, rumors, and news every day. Find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, it is David Schiele's Locked On Bucs mock draft debut. I'm excited to see what you have come up with here. So as we go through this, we're going to go straight up, just picking where the Bucs are supposed to be picking, even though doing the trades can be a lot of fun sometimes. But I want you to kind of take everyone through your thought process as to, who's available, where you think the best direction for the Bucs is to go, and then when you select a guy, just kind of talk for a minute about what you think they're going to be able to bring to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2025 and beyond. But let's start this thing off with pick 19, first round, Thursday night, all the bright lights. It's midnight at pick 19 because the first round lasts forever.
Yep.
What direction are we going in here? What are the options and what are we doing?
All right. So I'm cheating. I've got my other laptop over here. So let me pull up my mock draft. And yes, I did this one straight up, no trades. I did do a mock draft where there were trades, and I ended up getting the Bucs from 6 picks to 11 picks. I'll probably share that on social media because the Bills decided they wanted to move up to 19 to grab a wide receiver. But so here we go. Pick 19, 19th overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Jihad Campbell, linebacker, Alabama. Now, I have to stick to my guns because last week I said if this guy's on the board and the Bucs don't take him, I will be shocked. And so I can't say that and then not take him when I saw him on the board. I am a guy who will sing the praises of Shaq Barrett. However, in this draft, the Cardinals took him at 16 and he was gone. So I was like, okay. I would, that would have been a little bit of a harder decision. Did I think about Mykel Williams? Yes. Did I think about James Pierce Jr.? Yes. There were some other corners. I think Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky was available. Like there were some guys, but obviously number one guy on my board was Jihad Campbell. We just talked about linebackers being able to go sideline to sideline. We just talked about a young linebacker who still has a lot of room to grow, which Campbell does, and get knowledge from a Levante David. And by the way, it's not like Levante is the only one who can say anything. Deion Jones could also teach him some stuff too. So you have two linebackers with experience, two linebackers who have played in a Super Bowl. Levante won his Super Bowl, obviously. You have two guys who can really pour into him and then you have just the raw athletic ability. So to not take him again would be shocking. So at 19, Jihad Campbell.
Yeah, I like that pick. And I think it was yesterday's episode when I talked about when I was doing my mock draft or I was going through some type of decision there. But I had said, if the choice is between Jihad Campbell and Malachi Starks, I'm taking Jihad Campbell. If the choice is between Campbell and Barron, I think that's a tougher call. And I think I have to think about that one a little bit more, because with any of those three guys, you're getting an elite player at their position. You're getting arguably the best player at their position in this draft in any of those scenarios. But yeah, I get it. I had somebody on Twitter reach out and say, no more Alabama busts. They drafted one last year. Look, we're not calling Chris Braswell a bust after 1 year when we knew he was a rotational guy from the jump. Edge rushers, it's really tough to transition from the NFL or from college to the NFL. But Campbell's the real deal. I like that pick. All right. So round 2, pick 53. Yep. Who are you looking at and who is going to end up joining Jihad Campbell in Tampa?
All right. So this is where it got a little interesting for me, because I fully had my eyes, because I went linebacker first round, fully had my eyes on, I hope I say this right, Nick Scorton from Texas A&M, because he's an edge rusher. And I said, okay, I think this is the direction I'm going to go. But then I picked 52. Seattle took him. So
of course they did. Out here getting sniped in mock drafts.
I did. I got sniped in a mock draft. My options weren't aplenty here. So at pick 53, I chose Benjamin Morrison, cornerback from Notre Dame. And that's because anybody else to me truly was a reach. Like, did I want to go get Braden Swinson from LSU? I don't see him as valuable as I do Benjamin Morrison. Like, I don't have him ranked as high. The other thing that this system suggested was that I take Jalen Milroe. Why would I do that? No disrespect, but I'm here to let all naysayers know that I'm not picking Jalen Milroe to go to the Bucs in the second round. So Benjamin Morrison, you grab a corner. Obviously playing at Notre Dame means he played some big time football, played in the college football playoff. And, you got to have them. You got to have corners.
Well, the listeners and viewers of this show burst out laughing when you said Benjamin Morrison, because I've been pounding the table for that guy all draft season. That is my draft crush. That is my guy. That is my dude. And if it's not for a hip injury that cost him his season at Notre Dame last year, we're talking about Benjamin Morrison being a first-round prospect. We are talking about him in the same conversation as Barron and Will Johnson, which I'm not a fan of Johnson. I had a whole thing about that a couple of weeks ago. But no, Morrison's my dude. That's one of those that I think has a very high likelihood of whoever takes him in, on day 2, we're going to look back and say that was the steal of the draft right there, because that's a first-round guy. Mm-hmm. All right, so you're crushing it so far. I've given you an A+ on 2 picks now.
All right,
Jihad Campbell, Benjamin Morrison. Now round 3, pick 84. How are we finishing day 2 of the draft here?
Ooh, okay. I had to sit here and practice this name a lot.
Oh, those are the worst, because then as soon as you look at it, you end up all the practice goes out the window.
All the practice goes out the window. So okay, here we go. Oluwafemi Oladeju. I just messed it up. I know I did. Oladeju, I think. He's an edge from UCLA.
Yeah.
And the reason I like him a lot is because he actually played linebacker as well. So, and I think he's a better edge than linebacker. Let me get that out of the way. But I think when you have somebody who has kind of the linebacker's mentality playing edge, I feel like that's a bit of an advantage, especially in a Todd Bowles defense where he wants you to run around a little bit. So I think that's an advantage. And at that point, he was 100% the best edge available because I had not addressed it yet. I had only done linebacker and corner. And I just sat here and talked to you guys in that first segment about how important it was for the Bucs to get in edge. So do I think he's the guy that's going to get the double-digit sacks and just be the primary kind of like the Nick Bosa or the TJ Watt. I actually don't, but I do think he is a boost to that pass rushing group. And he's somebody who could totally develop. And he's a name that you're going to have to get used to trying to say, because I do think he is somebody that Todd Bowles could take and really mold into a pass rushing weapon.
Yeah, I've been battling with the pronunciation of Ezeraku, and the one that kept getting me was, and I had to have Evan, because Evan's the Ohio State guy. I had to have him tell me, JT Tuimoloau.
Yeah.
But it took Evan like 7 or 8 tries before he could finally spit it out and actually get it. So I think with enough practice, we'd be all right. It reminds me of years and years and years ago when I had to keep practicing Owamabe Odigizua to hammer that into my head.
Yeah.
And so all right. I like it. We've gone linebacker. We've gone corner. We've gone edge. We're halfway through David's mock draft. Let's see if he can finish as strong as he started. That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you're going to get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet on your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Right now, the Oklahoma City Thunder are the favorites to win the NBA Finals at plus 185, followed by the defending champion Boston Celtics at plus 190, the Cleveland Cavaliers at plus 490, and the Los Angeles Lakers at plus 1,600. For my money, I'm not betting against the champs until somebody beats them. I'm taking the Boston Celtics to go back to back. But don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Wrapping things up here on a WTSP edition of Locked On Bucs. And so far, through this mock draft, you're through the first 2 days. You can kind of rest, reset, take a nap. But you have the Bucs taking Jahad Campbell, Benjamin Morrison, and Oluwafemi Oladejo. Or Oladejo?
That was not it.
that was not it.
Oluwafemi.
Yeah, I wrote it down.
Oladejo.
See, I'm going to have to practice this one.
Oluwafemi Oladejo.
Spoiler alert, I'll be talking about him on tomorrow's episode when I bring everyone my top 10 edge rush fits for the Bucs, covering rounds 1 through 7 and all the different prospects. But Oladejo.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We're in the 4th round now. Pick 121. Yeah. Still some impact players out there. What is your plan for this pick?
All right. So at this point, I'm just looking for value, right? So I think I've drafted for need at this point, and I'm looking for some good value. At this point, I don't want to double down too much on a certain position. So I actually kind of battled here. Remember last week we talked about, could they grab an offensive player?
Oh yeah.
And there I am staring at Jaden Blue from Texas, the running back. And I was like, do I dare do it? Do I do it? And I said, nah, I'm not going to do it. Who I actually did want was Kevin Winston Jr., safety from Penn State.
Yep.
Yeah. Kevin Winston Jr. from Penn State. However, at pick 118, he went to the Falcons. So that went out. Yeah, that went out the door. So here I was staring at Jaden Blue. I was like, do I dare do it? No. So then I had to make a choice between 3 players. Kyle Kennard, edge from South Carolina, Jonas Sanker, safety from Virginia, and Ty Robinson, a defensive lineman from Nebraska. And I decided, bit of a coin toss here, but I decided to go with Ty Robinson. And the reason why I did that is I was thinking about missed games from Kalijah and missed games from Vita Vea. Because you're looking for value, because it's late, right? It's late. You're looking for value. You're looking for depth. You're looking for people who can develop. Kalijah's had some soft tissue issues in his hamstring. Vita Vea is liable to miss a couple of games. And we know how not defenses, but offenses see that as a wide open door, as a green light to just run the ball, and how the Bucs have had some struggles. And so I figured if I'm going to see it from that lens, I'm going to have to take a defensive lineman with Ty Robinson. So am I going to be sit here, guns blazing about this pick? No. But that was my mindset though, going into it.
Yeah, and that's definitely a position that should not surprise anyone if the Bucs address it because of, issues with Kalijah, issues with Vita. You hope it doesn't happen, but it tends to happen. And then I don't know, to me the jury's still out on Logan Hall. And you have Greg Gaines, but this defense needs a strong defensive line rotation. Adding a guy into the mix that you can gradually bring along. There's not a ton of pressure on him right out of the gate because he is a rotational piece. I like the pick. So I think addressing it there is pretty solid. So round 5, pick 157. You almost went offense.
I did.
In the 4th round. Is this where we're going to get an offensive weapon for Baker Mayfield?
No. No. And here's my dilemma here, because again, I had a running back staring at me. Damian Martinez.
Oh, I like him.
The running back from Miami. I was right. I was like, I got to do it. Right. I know the Bucs got running backs. I know they've already got it. And I know we love Bucky Irving. Even the Ducks love him, right? They fly into the stadium just to watch him. I know he was there. Damian Martinez was there, but I still had some things to address on the defense. So I had to do the Evan thing. I had to go with an Ohio State guy. I got Lathan Ransom, safety from Ohio State, at pick 157. I did. And that was one of those, I hadn't addressed it yet. Had not addressed it. I was really flirting with the idea of Damian Martinez, but I just could not bring myself to grab a running back, because my thing is, if I'm grabbing an offensive player, it's got to be a receiver. And if there's a defensive player that I like as much as Damian, I'm going to have to grab him. And that ended up being the case. And of course, Damian Martinez gets drafted 2 picks later by the Packers. And the receiver I would have taken was actually also from Miami, Restrepo. He was taking he was taking the pick before by the Steelers. So that just eliminated the whole receiver thing. And so there you go. Ransom.
I talked about Restrepo on yesterday's show because Pro Football Network had him going to the Bucs in a mock, and I was not a fan.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that the Bucs shouldn't draft a wide receiver. I just didn't like that particular pick. But no, Ransom here, like that to me has the potential to be as big of a steal as Benjamin Morrison was for you in the second, because we're talking about a guy who is ranked in the top 100 on PFF's big board, and you're getting him all the way down at 157.
Yeah.
The 53rd ranked safety in college football last year. He was, and that's out of 912 safeties. So that's a great pick. Even though he's a suck eye, I can let it go. I can see past it. I can let it go. So, all right. A long wait.
Yes.
To the 7th round, pick 235. But at this point, you're looking depth, you're looking practice squad, you're looking special teams, things like that. Who's finishing out this draft class for you?
So I actually go offense.
Hey.
I go offense, last pick. I'm not tripping over who's really available. I'm truly thinking of, okay, who do I think could just be a guy who could just help out this roster? And I started thinking about, okay, where do other injuries tend to happen for this Bucs team? I was like, okay, where, what would really hurt this Bucs team if there was an injury? Obviously, we know receiver and Baker Mayfield, like take that out of the equation. And it kind of hit me as pick 234 went down, which was the Seahawks taking Jack Nelson, the tackle from Wisconsin. And I said, I think I should grab an interior offensive lineman because the Bucs in training camp have had a recent tendency to lose an interior offensive lineman in training camp.
That is true.
So I think I should go ahead and grab one. So I grabbed Joshua Gray out of the Pac-2 from Oregon State, just to kind of fill that out. Do I think it's a starter? No, of course not. But look, injuries happen, and that's just how my mind works. Like, my mind works in ways of, like, not worst case scenario, but I don't come into it thinking all my starters are going to be healthy all the time. Let me just, I'll just grab whatever the needs are and just stick with that. And the needs have to work. You got to have depth. You do. So interior offensive lineman, Joshua Gray, he could work out, could not work out. I don't know. But if there's an injury, you do need somebody there that you have available to plug in and fill that out. And that's the guy I went with. He was the best one available. So he's the one I went with.
Yeah. And you're going to hope that you can, cross-train him, across all the interior positions.
Yeah.
The Bucs lose Robert Hainsey. Don't really know who's going to be able to step up at center. God forbid something happens to Graham Barton and he goes down. So no, that's another good pick. And if the Bucs want to add a running back, a receiver in undrafted free agency, they've done a really good job of that in the past. But to recap, we have Jahad Campbell at 19, my guy Benjamin Morrison at 53, edge rusher Oladejo. What is it? It's Oluwa.
I'm off of it now. Okay, hold on.
Oluwafemi.
Yep.
Oluwafemi.
Mm-hmm.
Oluwafemi Oladejo.
There you go.
84. Whew,
yeah,
man.
There it is.
And for those of you laughing or rolling your eyes at us, you go ahead and look at this dude's name and tell me that you're going to pronounce it right on the first try. All right. Defensive lineman Ty Robinson at 121. Lathan Ransom at 157. That is a huge steal again. That was a great pick. And then offensive lineman Joshua Gray at 235. David, I'm going to give you an A.
Cool.
I'm going to give you an A. I think that was a fantastic draft. Even though you took more Buckeyes than Illini, I'm going to forgive that because of the value that you got. And very, very well done. Let's wrap things up with this. This weekend is a big weekend for you. It's a big weekend for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Who's winning, Cody or Cena?
Ooh, I had a friend just ask me this in the group chat too. He wanted like all of our Mania picks, and I have to go through the card and give them. I think truly this heel turn has not been taken advantage of all the way.
Ooh.
One of the best shocking moments in wrestling history. John Cena turns heel. At this stage of his career, guy's about to retire, turns heel. We have not seen The Rock since that night. We have gotten Cena 3-4 times, and that's it. Hadn't wrestled, hadn't done anything. All he did was take a Crossroads. I mean, he cut some great promos, but I'm like, he took a Crossroads, whatever. Okay. So then what? He says he wants to ruin wrestling. Okay. Let's see him do it. Let's have him win. Let's have him take the title off of Cody, and let's see what he does with it. Give him one last title reign. He gets to 17. I know Ric Flair is going to throw a fit and, scream and shout at a cloud, but
old man yells at cloud.
Yeah, he's going to yell at a cloud, but hey, whatever. It's John Cena, greatest of all time. That's what they call him. I don't know if everybody considers him the greatest of all time, but yeah. But have him go over. Love Cody. Love that he wanted to take on the Cena schedule. I love the work that he's been putting in. That's great. That's awesome. But if we're getting Cena for the last time, let's let him really dive into this heel run because we haven't really had it. So if he loses at Mania, now what? Like, why did Cena even turn heel? What was that for?
Right.
What was it for? He said he wants to ruin wrestling. He wants to win 17. He doesn't want to give us new gear. He doesn't want to give us a new theme. He just wants to ruin wrestling because Cody's mediocre. Great. Prove it. Let's see it. Kind of a bold decision, but yeah, do it.
All right. Well, fun to note, the SmackDown the night before Backlash is in Dayton, Ohio, and they are pushing Cena. He is going to be there. If he's going to be at the SmackDown before Backlash, I think Cena wins.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for this episode. Please check out everything that David is doing over on 10 Tampa Bay, 10tampabay.com, and the 10 Tampa Bay Plus app. David, you guys are jam-packed. You got the draft coming up. You got the Lightning playoff run about to get started. You have the Rays, who cannot win on April 15th, but they're still doing well outside of that. Tons of stuff over there on 10 Tampa Bay. Make sure you're checking all of that out. Follow on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at @JYarcho_Bucs, at Deacon_Schiele. Make sure you are subscribed on YouTube with the notifications turned on, as well as wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, become a Locked On Bucs insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding day. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. Want to thank you so much for joining us right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.